Hello and welcome to episode 49 of the Dash Force Free Amigos podcast. I'm Mark Mason and I'm joined by my two fellow amigos, Joel Valenzuela. How's it going?
Hi, I'm here with a Scotsman. I brought one along for the ride.
Yeah. Guilty.
Okay. And Brian, how are you doing today?
Excellent.
And yes, we have a very, very special guest. Ian was an extra bonus that we didn't plan for, so I have to change the title of the video.
That's great. I like being the extra bonus.
Extra added value as
now
always.
I'm blushing.
But we're joined by a very, very special guest as well, Nathan Marley, who is the deputy CTO of Dash Core. How's it going, Nathan?
Good, thank you.
Nathan, are you related to Bob Marley by chance?
Yeah, what's cousin?
Is there like a clown track? Do we have a clown? No.
No, that's just Brian.
Right, so let's just focus on Nathan for a second. So Nathan, can you just talk a little bit about your job role? How long have you been in Dash Core and what do you do exactly?
Sure. I've been a paid staffer of Dash Core since August of 2016. Currently I'm the deputy CTO. So that came about because we had a developers workshop in Hong Kong last November. Andy, who was our CTO at the time, he actually asked me after that if I could take over some of the administrative duties for him so that he could dive into the code. He's been wanting to dive into protocol design and kind of be an architect of the whole system, the whole platform. And so I agreed, and that's kind of how this role came about.
Excellent. Is there any other plans for like another developer camp? Because I always hear so much great things about that Hong Kong trip. I remember Alex Werner and Chuck were so excited when they came back. They were so re-energized. So I think you guys need to have another dev camp. Is there any plans for that?
There's talk right now, and currently it's just kind of an informal thing. I think a few people have decided that they want to get together in someplace in Southeast Asia this summer, but it's nothing official right now.
Okay, cool. So before you was deputy CTO, you was a core developer on the back end. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So I told you that I came in August of 2016. Originally, I came in and brought in to do Sentinel, which is this thing which masternodes have to run, perform some extra services. And after that, we started on Evolution in earnest after 12.1, and so I was started leading the development of Evolution. Was specifically working on the Dash Drive team, which Ian's also a part of, and after the November conference, started doing more high-level kind of admin type stuff.
Excellent. So Brian, you was asking me last week about 12.3, right? So I guess this is the perfect opportunity. You got the man right in front of you. This is the right person to ask that had the recent update. So go ahead.
Miles between them, but close enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot all the cool stuff that was in there. What all was in there? When's it coming out?
12.3?
Yeah.
So there's a lot in it. We have named DevNets, which are kind of a big thing. DevNet is kind of that concept came about. It's like we needed a test net, but we needed it that wasn't public. We needed a test net where developers internally could play with stuff, could test things, could break things, and not break the public test net, and also not be affected by people doing things on the public test net. For example, when so many people run testnet nodes and testnet master nodes, it makes it difficult for us internally to test out what would happen if the majority of master nodes voted on this thing, because we can't, control everybody else's nodes. And so for that reason, we came up with testnet, and it's devnet. I'm sorry. And so that's kind of a it's kind of like a reg test mode, if you're familiar with that, and it just lets us test things internally. That's a really big change. Another change, a lot of these are maintenance, things like that. We're catching up to Bitcoin. We're making massive strides compared to previous, so that we're actually starting to get those code bases in sync and pull in a lot of those optimizations which Bitcoin's already applied. There's some
just all the backporting in there.
Yeah.
It seems, yeah, it seems like pretty good stuff.
There's a ton of backporting. We had one guy join us in particular at the end of last half of last year who's been very very helpful in getting all of those caught up.
Excellent.
Just little things here and there.
When do they think it's going to be released? Do they have is there a soft date or?
We're expecting pretty soon. I'm hesitant to give any dates because there's always a lot of variation that can, there's a lot of variation that can happen during the very final test phase, the QA right before release.
And then what about?
I would expect within the next week or two, no later than that.
And then 12.4 is coming out before
Version 13.
13.
Yeah. So how much longer after 13 comes out, or before the next one? Before
How much longer before after 12.3? After does 12.4 come out? And
right.
Right.
A couple of months.
I would expect 2 to 4 months, but again, I don't like to give out dates early because I don't want to, promise anything that I can't deliver. But basically, 12.4 is, I'm really excited about 12.4 as well, because that's going to help lay a lot of the groundwork for some of the stuff in evolution. Things like, I'm not sure if it's been mentioned yet, but the deterministic masternode list thing is really very, very cool. And we're about to release some dips as well, which are really exciting. It really opens up a lot for us. It enables a lot of things.
What is it determine? Yeah, what is that?
Masternode. Yeah, what is that? That sounds fascinating.
Sure. So currently, the masternode lists, they're basically exchanged via peer-to-peer messages, but that's done so in such a way that two different masternodes may not have the exact same lists. They may be off by maybe 2 masternodes. So this masternode will have a list which includes all of the same ones that this masternode does except for one. And so for the most part, that's not a problem, but it can be, especially with regards to whenever the masternode payments are done, for example, because those go on the blockchain, and so that could cause fork if things like that. If you want to take a quorum of masternodes, a random selection of masternodes to be able to query all of those to be able to agree on something, if the masternode lists are not the exact same, that can also be a problem because those quorums will be different. So a deterministic list means that it's always going to be the same every time. And the way that we ensure that is we're now putting information on the blockchain, so it ties it to the blockchain.
Is there going to be the HD function? Is that going to be with the 12.3?
The HD function is included in 12.3. It is, I believe it's still considered in beta mode. So
how do you access it? Because it's available now, but I don't know how to access it.
There's a command line switch that you have to type. I haven't really played with it much, to be honest.
So it is going to be in 12.3 again, but it's not going to be default. It's going to be like hidden command line.
I don't want to tell you that for sure. I can't say for sure. I wouldn't say if it's command line, it's necessarily hidden, but
yeah, for me, yeah, for noobs it is. I don't know how to, yeah, yeah, I don't know.
What's it like working with Ian?
Terrible. No,
Such a taskmaster. I mean, dear me. I came in and said we're gonna add IPFS to Dash and we're gonna do it in 2 weeks, or I'm gonna fire you all. I mean, it's just terrible. Just
I
what I have to work with.
I haven't been hired yet, but I'm gonna fire people.
I'm gonna
Still
fire people that haven't even been hired yet.
Oh yeah, Ian's been fun to work with. Yeah, he's a cool guy.
Nathan, what's your overall feeling on how everything's going? Because we've just had the demo 2 video come out. So as you're overseeing many different compartments of Dash, being the deputy CTO, so you're seeing everything and you're talking to different groups within Dash Core. How are you feeling about this right now? Are you happy? Is everything on the same page? Are we at where you thought you would be? How do you feel right now? Optimistic?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm optimistic. I'm excited. It's very exciting. Last year we grew so much, and growth is great, but we grew so much and so quickly that we kind of experienced some growing pains for a while. Internal communication wasn't exactly what we hoped it would be. And so we definitely worked hard at fixing that, at getting through some of those, growing pains, and we're doing a lot better. So I'm really excited about it. The community for the longest time was justifiably a little upset about our lack of communication, and that's not that we didn't want to communicate, but we had to address some of those growing pains before we were able to kind of get on the same page and be able to share a lot of this. If that makes sense. So yeah, super excited that we're starting to push through. We're innovating. We're starting to just push forward with a lot of technical innovation. These dips I'm talking about. It's really exciting time.
Hey, one more question on the HD functionality. I was watching that demo, the evolution demo that Chuck and Joshua and everybody did. I noticed it had just a 12-word seed phrase. I know there's also like a 24. I know some places don't consider that 12 to be totally secure. Do we know which one we're going to go with?
It's most likely going to be configurable by the end user. I would suspect the 24, but I'm glad you asked, Brian, because that gives me an opportunity to highlight exactly what it is that we're delivering, and also maybe talk about why it's taken as long as it has. We're not just delivering just a wallet that lets you use usernames. We're delivering a platform, and so Evolution's our code name for this V13 release of the Dash platform, as you see it. And this demo that you've seen for this wallet, that is our implementation of a wallet. But once we release this platform, literally anyone who wants to, any developer can go and make their own wallet on top of the platform. So if they're like, you know what, this wallet, Dash Pay wallet released by Dash Core Groups, terrible. I don't like it. I want to release, I want to change it. I want a different one. Absolutely anyone can do that. And that's what's so powerful about this platform is anyone can do that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure the proposals will be piling up. I'm sure that's cool. That's great.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting question. Do you pay attention to the proposal process very much, Nathan?
I used to. Lately, I haven't been a whole lot.
Probably for the best.
Yeah, probably so. It's so much going on now with that it can be a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
Just for people watching, what's it like to work for Dash Core, earn Dash, and live off Dash in terms of the price fiat volatility? Is that something that really concerns you? Because you're living a life that most people is going to be alien to most people, because, you know, that we're talking about deterministic, that the fiat price determines how you live on a month-to-month basis, right?
Kind of, yeah. You know, our salaries at this point are fixed in local currency for most people, so it's not as much of a thing. And last year we had so much, you know, the price appreciated so much that we really don't have to worry too much about you know, not getting paid. That's really not a huge concern. So that's actually really good. It's not really a concern. I feel really secure, and I think most people are pretty secure in their jobs, and that's what allows us to keep, you know, producing. We're able to focus on just producing a better platform.
I think the code that we're writing is actually streamlining the process by which we're going to get paid in the future.
Yeah, that's pretty cool too. It's kind of surreal.
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, it is interesting to be. It's not just like you're building a thing and being paid for it. You're building your own world. Like this is working on this ecosystem that then you live on. And so, like, I've been living off of Dash for almost a little over a year now, and it's funny to see like all this work getting put into this system that then now grows around me. And then I write excitedly about, oh, there's this new system, that this new place that takes Dash. Oh, this other new place that takes Dash. And then I go and use it the very next day, like myself in my own life. So, but it's got to be even weirder for a developer to be like, you're building the system that then you ask for money or you participate in, but it's like you helped build that, but it's still alive. It's kind of I was watching a comedian on YouTube last night, and he was talking about how when he was younger, he used to just meet people at a park or a bar or whatever, hang out with them. But now he made his own people and hangs out with them as a father. And this is how weird it is to make your own people and then just spend time with them. And so it must be interesting to kind of make your own system that then you interact with, not as a superior, but as an equal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's surreal. I have to pinch myself sometimes and say, wait, is this real? You know, because it's
totally.
And Ian probably would agree. I mean, yeah, we have dream jobs. You know, I'm living a dream. I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. I'm so grateful for the ability to be working on this system, which I'm so passionate about. Everyone in the team is so passionate. Yeah, it's great.
Is there any updates on the roadmap? Fernando alluded to a few weeks back that there was an updated roadmap coming soon, but as the deputy CTO, have you been involved in that process? Do you think it's going to be a couple of weeks, months, or is it still pie in the sky?
Yeah, I've been heavily involved in it. It's coming along really nicely. It's a lot more involved than it has been in the past, and the reason that it's taken so long is we're taking input from all of the areas, making sure it's taken a long time, and it's a lot of coordination from people all over the globe, and so that's why it's taken so long. But I would say give us a few more weeks. We've been wanting to release this for a while, and we're not intentionally delaying anything. We're super excited to be able to release it. It's just the other thing we've got to get worked out first.
Yeah, and this one's not going to. The previous one from last year obviously was had dates, but I believe Fernando was saying this one's going to be more milestone based. Just structuring it, breaking it down, because people attach themselves to dates when really we want to be focusing on building the project and development and focusing on the milestones, right? Yeah. And things can change through, unforeseen things can happen, or when developing things, they can open new doors and then change slightly direction sometimes. So we need to be flexible as possible.
Yeah, how far in advance is it going? Is it going to go like 2 or 3 years out, or not that far?
Right now, we're just trying to focus on Evolution MVP, V13, minimum viable product, and we have other things that we're kind of nice to have, but we don't want to even release those. We just kind of want to get the absolute minimum for now, and we want to break that down into milestones as well, so that the community can follow along with our progress.
Yeah, so
like,
probably, probably interest-bearing accounts is not going to be up there. Collateralized mining, stuff like that, right? It's not going to.
Not right now, not this iteration. We plan for this roadmap to be a living document. It's going to be changing. It's going to continually be updated. We don't just want to, do like this last one and just throw it up and then not really make any changes to it. That's not helpful for anyone.
How did you get into Dash? Was you like in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency world before? Like, what's your story? How did you get involved in this?
I got into Bitcoin originally in 2012 and just kind of got into Litecoin not long after. And when I found out about Darkcoin, it was, the coolest thing. So just being involved slowly from owning Bitcoin and then volunteering more and answering questions and.
Also, it's like natural progression. So like basically you just involved yourself, because I guess the GitHub was kind of like open source, right? So if you're a developer, you could see some of that stuff, help contribute, have conversations, and then you build friendships and then trust and reputation. So of course, yeah, that's the best way, right? And interestingly, Joel, am I right in remembering, I think you said Ian got you into Bitcoin, is that correct?
Not quite, but it was like right around that time. Like,
okay, that's the way it was.
Within a couple days of having I received my first Bitcoin before I met him, but it was like 2 days before or 1 day before, and then it was like basically as I started to learn about Bitcoin, I was just hanging out with him all the time, and he was working on mining and some other things like that, and so it was pretty integral to my development in terms of getting into this kind of thing.
So Ian,
we were all doing it here in the Free State. I was proselytizing for Bitcoin here at the time, and we started up. I think it's got the award for being the longest running Bitcoin meetup in the world. Started here in New Hampshire.
Yeah, they just celebrated their 300th consecutive weekly meetup.
So a lot of ideas came out of that, like Lamassu, the Bitcoin ATM.
Yeah,
we sat around sort of hashing that out.
Who else was
from the very beginning?
Eric Voorhees and Charlie Shrem.
Yeah,
were
Eric
in there
Voorhees
too.
and Charlie Shrem. We met. Vitalik has visited us a number of times.
Wow.
And to think we're only on episode 49 of the Free Amigos. We've got a long way to go.
Yeah, so you got 251.
251 to go.
What year did you get into Bitcoin, Ian?
I started, I actually heard about it really, really early on. I frequented some of the P2P forums and so on, but I didn't really start getting into it. I've mined Bitcoin on my laptop. Wow. It was 2010, I think.
Wow.
I actually mined some amount of Bitcoin on my laptop with my crappy laptop GPU.
Yeah, I remember people were still mining on their little netbooks in 2013.
Yeah, right.
Which I'm not sure how effective that was, but I'm sure they got something out of it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Brian will remember this, but I remember when Darkcoin first came out, and there was, I'm not sure if it was, I believe Amazon just launched their web services, right? AWS. And Microsoft had launched their version. It's named, I forget now, the hosting service that they have. And basically, you could sign up for a free 30 days to have a server. So everyone was signing up to get like a free spin up a server for 30 days just to mine Dash. Also, so Darkcoin at the time.
Yeah.
And I did it as well. Everyone was doing it. Someone actually wrote down the instructions and posted it on the.
And then that devolved into cloud mining.
There were bot services that people were selling that had actually taken over people's GPUs.
Wow.
You could actually do that.
That just makes me think of Monero, and that's not a happy thought. So, yeah.
It's still happening to this day. Yeah, they're still botnet mining.
Yeah. Oh no, I should imagine.
So Ian, right? There's so much happening with evolution, especially you being, so deeply involved with Dash Drive. As a kind of a developer, you're always forward thinking and thinking about, oh, that would be a really cool application for doing this, doing that. Is there anything upcoming that you get excited about, where you think that this technology that Dash Core is building could be utilized in a certain way?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think dApps. I think we're really on a very good course with our DAppy and with these systems that we're building. I think what we're going to be able to do is everything that Ether can do, but we can do it a lot more cheaply and a lot more effectively. I think that's the direction we're going in.
Yes. However, from purely marketing standpoint, I want to avoid the cancer that is marketing Dash as an Ethereum killer. I've seen that way too many times, and it really annoys me.
Yeah. So building these decentralized applications, I think we're going to give developers an easy course into adding value and these types of transactions to their products. I think there's, given that just the model of Dash, there's going to be continual development, and we're always going to be on the leading edge, looking for new ways to integrate this very useful product.
Yeah, the fact that we're building a platform in terms of advantages of other rival projects in this crypto space, I feel on the infrastructure that we're building as a foundation to build upon, we have so much potential here. Where me and Joel was having an interesting discussion last night, where I was saying, we could build our own Facebook, YouTube streaming service within the Dash platform. And, the fact that we're going to have the same kind of username structure, I hate to use Steam it, but obviously Steam, it's got Steam it, YouTube, we could have our own Instagram, but we could have that one login, which would be your wallet, and it'd be included. But then we could imagine having a YouTube, but when you sign in, it's going to have your wallet integrated as well. So you could upvote and things. Like, you could do so much. Instagram, Twitter, like, we could replicate that on things. I get so excited about this stuff. So I just really hope that we can attract those developers. And I know Ethereum always gets thrown into the mix, and I know there'll be haters out there that, will say, like, Ethereum's done this first. But I feel with our advantage with the Dash Drive and hopefully the ease of use, the dApp generator, as Chuck was talking about, I feel we're going to bring so much extra added value and advantage to a developer that when they actually look at all these alternative options, they're going to say, well, look, it's going to be much more advantageous to actually use the Dash platform, because otherwise we've got to centralize and build our structure over here when we could actually utilize the Dash platform and get so much more back from it.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be so much easier. Plus, there's going to be funding for these developers as well.
Right, exactly.
Well, hopefully, it depends on how fat the treasury gets, how many people, because this cycle, the Dash treasury is over double requested. And so that means, what is it? It's probably like around 150 Dash is going to get used on proposals that do not pass. And isn't that something like Dash Force's monthly budget?
Yeah. Wow.
So basically, Dash Force's monthly budget is going to put forth proposals that are not getting funded this month. Ooh, that's crazy.
And that's murder, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like, that increases the value of Dash, though, then, doesn't it?
Possibly, if you're optimistic, or it could mean a lot of people are losing money. It could mean that too.
Yeah,
I think I prefer the optimistic view.
Yes.
So Nathan,
yes.
Nathan, do you get excited about the raw potential of what evolution could bring? I could see when I was talking about the social networks and stuff. It's not just that. I mean, you could build your own eBay. It's crazy. And I'm sure within Core Team, you must have conversations as well. And it must be frustrating being visionaries, always forward thinking about ideas where you've got to focus on one thing, but you'd be like, oh, it'd be amazing if we could do this, but I've got to focus on my work.
Yeah. It is super exciting. It really is. At the same time, I don't want to get too far ahead that we're not making sure that we optimize, make sure everything is tight, solid. Definitely want to deliver a well-engineered, airtight product. This is something that we can't really afford to get wrong. I mean, because it's financial software, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's.
Would you agree, though, that the biggest hurdle that I foresee is that you've actually got to get developers to utilize and you actually use it? And I think it's getting that message out and conveying it and getting developers interested to actually know that the solution's about so they can actually use it. I know there's the SDK. I know you're working on the developer documentation. But from my point of view, I think like the biggest hurdle is getting people involved. And I do think some Ethereum developers, that is a market, and I do think they will have great skills that they could easily transfer over to us, and possibly some development projects that are being built on other systems as well to port over. I mean, is this a big conversation within Core? You guys should forming a strategy on how to achieve this, or is that not really your line of work?
It's not immediately. I think it is going to be as soon as we release Evolution, and we should be thinking about, and we are a little bit, target markets and things like that. But there's going to be, the SDK, for example, that's in JavaScript. We're going to need other implementations. Maybe someone wants a PHP version for web stuff. They're going to want to go make that. So yeah, once we release Evolution, we're going to want to get a lot of people involved. We're going to want to get different languages, different implementations. Diversity of the software ecosystem is definitely exciting. It's not exactly like Ethereum, in that Ethereum has the compute contracts, which can be dangerous. And with Dash, we're going with data contracts. But it's still really exciting. Yeah, absolutely. And once we release I've been more focused on just trying to, get to that release stage. And once we get there, yeah, it's just sky's the limit.
Excellent. Yeah, man. I'm so happy about what's going on with Evolution. Just when that first demo 1 video came out, it changed the way I look at Dash completely. And I know a lot of people still don't get the full bigger picture. And the thing is, you can't paint a picture because we don't know what Evolution's going to be. It's a blank canvas. It's whatever the developers make of it, right? So yeah, it's really interesting times. But yeah, there is a big thing. But okay, so Chuck, very, very smart, loves his UX, but he creates these user profiles, right? From the psychology standpoint, from a user perspective. So he wants to make sure from the user end, user experience caters to all these different user profiles. Now, from the merchant side, I remember in the roadmap last year, they said that there was going to be a small group of merchants that you were going to try and integrate within the Evolution process along the way, because you could try and build the best system, but it's always good to have some like merchants like testing out, because they're going to have different needs and wants. So when you release this from out the gate, you're going to have a good solid foundation. Can you speak any more on like merchants involved with the Evolution process, or is that like strictly classified?
I haven't really been that involved with the side of things. I do believe we're going to want to do that. Yeah. I don't believe we would be making that public, but honestly, I shouldn't be. You're even speaking to that point. I would suggest talking with our business development and integrations director, or maybe even Fernando, or CMO, about that.
Yeah, fair play. Yeah, because I just think for it to be a success, to launch, you want as many people just to jump on it straight away, right? I mean, there's always going to be a battle for the usernames. So I've already taken at Stay Dashy. So, and the other thing as well that was mentioned, that they were going to say it's going to there's going to be a small amount to pay to join, to be able to sign up to Dash Evolution. Do you recall that? So like, I always found that quite interesting. I don't think that's really been explored and questioned. And I guess it's not really finalized yet as well. Yeah. Can you speak a bit about that? Or is it just it's just too far away?
It's not too far away. Not sure what I can and can't share. But very high level.
Anything that goes on the Dash drive, right? It's going to have to be.
Yeah. So basically, every action on the network is incentivized, right? Because we don't want to open ourselves up to like Sybil attacks, things like that. So basically, by incentivizing this, it's to claim your name or whatever you will. You're registering a name, a username, and in order to do that, eventually you're going to want to store. I mean, that's just whatever the cost for the transaction, but you're going to want to add a little extra. And let me explain where that goes. For Dash Drive, for example, that stores metadata about your user account. So, for example, you saw in the demo, you saw the Dash Pay wallet. You're going to have contacts and friend requests. Those links, those contacts have to be stored somewhere, and in our system they're stored in the masternode network, specifically in Dash Drive. And so we need to be able to incentivize that somehow, such that someone who's storing a whole contact information is paying a nominal fee for those, and maybe someone who doesn't store any isn't really having to pay as much of a fee, if that makes sense. And so that's kind of the concept of that. It's not going to be a whole lot at any rate, especially considering the price of Dash. I would not expect that to be a lot, but it will be a nominal fee.
Okay.
That's reserved, and that goes into the Drive metadata storage fee mechanism.
Yeah, because I'm just purely thinking from a sign up and adoption perspective. I remember Ryan in the beginning of January 2017. Well, I think easily without doubt in Miami was his best presentation, because everyone was buzzing about that, where he spoke about how the Internet Explorer kind of came about when different advertising people came about. But the example he gave of PayPal and when they launched and different tactics that they did to onboard. So I'm just purely thinking from the adoption perspective to actually get people to use the platform, especially people new to cryptocurrency. So for me, it was the barrier to entry, right? So just to make sure that it would be easy, I'm sure we can do things to incentivize users as well in a similar thing. So
I remember hearing that the idea was that you could sign your friend up, or so perhaps we can develop a DAppy to do that.
Yeah, actually, this is something that we've talked a lot about. Chuck has gone through different, user flows, and we've talked a whole lot about the onboarding process. And I think the general consensus is we're going to try and there's various different things we could do in order to incentivize that. But basically, we don't want there to be a barrier to entry for new people. Yet at the same time, we also have to make sure that we don't open ourselves up to DOS type attacks and have that same fee structure in place.
Yeah, it's difficult because I remember when PayPal first came out, it was kind of like sign up or sign. I think it was like you get someone to sign up and you'll get like $20. But then also they did like a multi-pronged approach where they had strategic partners from the launch, which were companies like Nike and everything else. So they had their services integrated. So like, if you spend at Nike, you can get like 5 to 10% off if you use PayPal as an option. So there's lots of things we do. And the great thing is we've got the treasury to make that work. Now, without mentioning any names, because there was an article that came out this week, sometimes when you're doing like giveaways, especially when it comes to signups, it can lead to problems because they're not absolutely completely watertight.
What are you talking about?
I know, so I'm not going to mention any names. If you read dashforcenews.com, which you should, you'll know what I'm on about.
Then you're a terrorist.
But yeah, I think the way to success is not just doing one thing. I think we need to take multiple approaches. And I think that's the key to success. And it's not just to focus on one person. You know, if we really want our grannies to be using this, it really has to be as simple and easy to use as possible. I just look forward. I mean, I'm looking forward to evolution itself, but really it's the applications that are going to be built upon it. Gaming, poker, adult, because like we were talking about the cannabis industry, the adult industry, and when it comes to payment systems and these things, now we was only talking about the adult industry last week, but these live cam things, with the payment processors, so the males, females, whoever's doing these live cam things, you know, they're getting like 30 to 40% like taken away. Like a payment solution like Dash solves that problem, right? Gaming as well. Can you imagine like competition gaming? Like, just think about YouTube. There's so many kids playing using like Twitch, which is owned by Amazon, and like they're subscribing to get like emojis and sort of stuff and pay people like content creators. There's just so much we could do with evolution. I really hope we can attract the best talent to build upon it, because if you see what Steam has managed to do, imagine doing that on Dash, but you're going to get so much more from it. It's going to be a much bigger ecosystem, and you're going to have a lot more things to pull from.
Yeah, I think that's going to kind of take on a life of its own eventually. Once, you know, once a couple of groups or people start building on what we've, you know, the platform has delivered, and people start seeing how easy it is to integrate payments into things that they want to do, in applications, games, whatever it is, I think it's just going to kind of snowball from there. It's just going to continue to gain momentum.
Yeah, I was trying to explain to Joel yesterday, just saying like you need to think of evolution in this light. So, you know, back in the day, if you wanted to sign up to a service, because, you know, we don't get CDs to install software, not most applications are web-based now, right? So if you wanted to sign up, you needed an email, right? Email is like one of the first protocols of like the internet, right? So basically, like if you want to sign up, you have to put in your email address. Now, modern day, when you go to a lot of web-based applications now, you can still log in, sign up with an email address, or you can log in via your Google or your Facebook, and there's going to be an evolution button as well for people who've got signed up on that, which could be easily integrated, right? So like I'm just saying, like the world is our oyster here. So all these platforms across the board, and even outside the evolution world, like I just don't think people comprehend it. I just don't think they get it yet.
Yeah,
you know what I'm on about? Like,
yeah, I know what you're on about. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, the logging with Dash, and we've actually discussed that internally a bit. It's not currently considered a MVP feature, as we've been focusing on payments, but absolutely, yeah,
because every business you can imagine, like even if you was a big like poker player, can you imagine all these poker betting websites? Imagine building a dedicated like betting solution on Dash Evolution. You know, so you could have like all the animation of the the roulette table and that sort of stuff, but it was purely integrated within Dash, because when you're on the Dash Evolution platform, you know, you've got the wallet and stuff already integrated. It would be the best user experience possible. And literally anything you think about, like people talk about Open Bazaar, eBay and stuff, you've got the perfect platform to build upon it, because you're going to have the contacts, friends list. Like it's putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. And I really feel the people that wake up to this, the entrepreneurs that have ideas, can see this, they're going to have that first mover advantage, because this isn't just going to be like a 6-month year thing. Like we're building the future of the internet, I feel, in terms of applications on a platform. Like I don't really feel like this has been done. The only thing I can really equate this to is like, imagine when Windows first came out and you were building applications on Windows. But this is like building applications on Evolution, where it's going to have a wallet, your friend is integrated. It's the next level. It hasn't been done before. Am I being too cheerleader?
I love your enthusiasm. It's great.
Hey, one question I had is, a long time ago, an old feature, we were going to integrate with Proton Mail, and you were going to be able to basically send payments to someone's email address, and then somehow with an evolution they would get a link in their email address, and then they would click that link, kind of like the old change tip used to work for YouTube. and they would get a link to it, and then they would be, they would sign up, and then they would have access to their $5 tip or $10 tip or whatever. Is that still something that's being worked on, or?
I have not kept up with the Proton Mail integration, and that's really not in my purview. I would have to defer that to our business development director, Brad, who is also doing integrations.
Okay. All right, Ian, technical question for you. As I'm still trying to learn about Dash Drive, IPFS, are there any limitations that you see from our side that could be problematic that you think still needs work on, which is just a limitation of the technology?
I think go ahead. I think that we've through this entire process of bringing IPFS into Dash, we've ran into that quite frequently. I think that IPFS is targeting an entire stack of protocols to essentially replace the internet, to replace the web, and so a lot of our concerns are parallel. And so, for example, one of the problems that we encountered recently was an inability of one of the libraries that we're including or we're using, OrbitDB, to manage its namespaces correctly. And just in a recent update of IPFS, that particular problem's been fixed essentially. And so a lot of the time we're running into immaturity because this is a brand new market. I mean, we're excited about it because it's not like, we're trying to get excited about old rope or something. This is all new to everybody. And I think that the Dash team is really putting together a great, we've put together a great team, and we're developing a great set of protocols. And in dApps, we're going to have the ability to replace PayPal and replace YouTube. And it's one of the things that it does is it gives developers the ability to do that more easily. And Bitcoin's been improving that way, and Dash is improving much more quickly because of the incentive structure. So Dash Drive, building on IPFS, we're also incorporating IPFS, their particular protocol ideas for multi-formats and IPLD, which will actually allow us in the long run to use other backends, not just IPFS.
Sorry, what was that? IPLID?
Yeah, so these are, this is technical terms for some of the formats that we're using. So we're not marrying ourselves to IPFS. In essence, we're actually, funnily enough, we're using tools that Protocol Labs is producing in order to make sure that we don't have to marry ourselves to IPFS.
So, wow. So there's the limitations of evolution, already, we need more power.
Right, exactly. And so we're giving the Mastnodes, essentially, by taking that path, of course, we're giving Mastnodes the capability to choose whichever backend they want to use. But we've been targeting IPFS again because it's so much of it. It's such a broad thing. It's attacking every single aspect of P2P, the P2P nature of these things, and so that makes it really useful. And there's a lot of good people developing on IPFS. So I think we're backing the right horse, but we're not being stuck in that particular rut if it ever becomes a rut.
IPFS uses a lot of different primitives from the, basically they're kind of reinventing networking as we know it, more or less.
And they're putting that into libp2p, which is like a more abstract library for doing that. That's not specific to IPFS or whatever.
Yeah, because wasn't there limitations with IPFS initially in terms of there was lots of criticism saying that it was a bit slow and cumbersome? I'm guessing there's been improvements along the way. I think DTube itself, when you upload a video, that's using IPFS, and from a user experience, it's more delayed, right? So
I mean, they're dealing with in the same way that the Dash core team and the Evolution team are dealing with some really sticky problems. IPFS teams are dealing with them too, and oftentimes, like I say, we're paralleling because we're trying to do the same thing as they're trying to do, maybe under a different, what looks like a different context. But we've been rewarded for waiting because they're obviously improving their capabilities. I mean, we know that it's always going to be in the same way that the blockchain is eventually consistent. It's just there's a different profile of consistency, but it's acceptable in that the type of data that we're storing, storing a canonical index in the blockchain is what we should be doing, and that's what we're doing. And then on the back end, that data ends up flowing and being valid, or it doesn't have to be within that 2-minute block block time though. And so that flexibility is actually a really good thing, and it's sort of it's necessary.
So how much do you, both of you, so Nathan, are you like 100% in Dash? Are you a true believer? Can I ask?
Yeah, I am.
You up?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ian, no pressure.
Well, I've been vested in a number of different currencies, so yeah. Now you're getting me to kiss and tell, which
yeah. I knew this was going to happen. I knew it.
He's polyhodless.
But I've also I've also dabbled in the dark arts of writing my own sort of things, and so.
Well, that probably gives you some benefits as well, right? Though, does it not, Ian?
Oh, definitely.
Because
definitely.
If you're privy and savvy to a lot of the other rival projects ongoing, then you can kind of pull from those as well and keep your finger on the pulse.
It's true, but I'm guilty of just betting on it. But I don't do it too much though. I don't do it too much.
It is always interesting.
But I've got way more Dash than any of the others.
Yes. Well, it's interesting because it is as much as I'm all about Dash, right? I don't have time to research other coins that well enough to where I'd be comfortable putting some funds into them. However, philosophically, I don't believe in maximalism. I don't believe that it's like one thing is just gonna everything. And then the Lord came down and he spake to Duffield, and Duffield said, "This will be the coin for all eternity. Amen." Like that kind of stuff. I don't know. This is all human innovation. We're creating things and things and things and more things, and then one thing fails, another thing fails. One thing kind of works, but then gets beaten by another thing, and eventually we have like a rich, thriving ecosystem of technology. And it's funny because if one were to be a Dash maximalist, one would have to ignore all of human history prior to 2014. Just be like, none of that mattered. Nah, it all sucked. Just this is when life begins at Dash, right? Like this all starts in 2014. Then everything sucked before then. This is what's worthwhile, and it's to infinity. There's no end date. There's no date to where there's going to be anything different from Dash, even hundreds of years out. That's going to be better. It's just a really kind of, in my mind, a sort of ridiculous assumption. As much as I'm one of the closest things you can get to a Dash maximalist. Yet, well, usernames aside, right? But that's one of the closest things you can get, while at the same time completely not believing in the concept of maximalism like that at all.
Yeah, it's difficult though, isn't it? I mean, for me, the reason why I don't look at not a lot of the other projects because I just feel Dash is so hugely undervalued. Look, we've got Alt 36 launching next month. I think their website release is going to come in like the next few days with a countdown. But the cannabis industry, the dispensaries, we've got Evolution around the corner. And not only that, if you're within Dash, we've got like 66 live proposals this month. There's always new projects just look forward to around the corner. So like, I know all this stuff that's coming. So like, I often feel like, why would I go else anywhere? We're so undervalued at the moment with all this stuff that's going to happen. Like, why wouldn't I look elsewhere?
I got to Dash through Darkcoin because I also purchased Darkcoin, and so my dabbling in that, I have to thank for that. Obviously,
yes. Which what's funny is it was like a month or two ago. He was looking through old exchange accounts and he found he had some old Darkcoin, and it's like, oh, I found some Darkcoin! Oh, and he's all excited about it because it's been forever since it was Darkcoin.
It was more than a few months ago.
Yeah, it was like, but it was like
seems
four
like it.
to
It's
6 months. It wasn't that long ago. It was very recently.
Wow, you should feel lucky because a lot of people got burnt by Cripsy and Mintpal. I know that'll be alien to a lot of people watching it, but those were the exchanges back in the day that a lot of people used and depended on.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't exist anymore. Shout out to Big Verge. Oh no, sorry, Big Vern. It was Big Vern, wasn't it? Cripsy.
Not Big Verge. That's not part of this podcast.
Yeah. It's not talking about Verge. Unless it's Pornhub.
Anyway, it reminds me of, we're talking about maximalism and all these different. There's just so much left to go to be developed, and Dash is making great strides. In fact, we just listed our 1,000th business on Discover Dash today. So there's over 1,000 Dash accepting businesses all around the world. 112 of those, or no, 116 are in Venezuela, 60 in the Caracas area.
Wow.
And that's pretty, we're starting to see like an explosion there. And like New Hampshire is always going to be heavy with the Dash acceptance just because, you know, crazy people like us there. But then there's a few dozen in Kiev.
Yeah, we're not that crazy though, because it just works, right?
Yeah, of course.
It just works. I mean, with Bitcoin, it kind of stopped working. You're sitting
Yeah.
there, you're paying huge amounts of money and so on. And Dash has always had a quick transaction time and so on. And
There's a few dozen in Australia now too. There's cropping up these clusters and more and things. But if you think about it, 1,000 businesses, if you think about, for example, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, which is like 23 Dash businesses, 23 to 26 for a town of 20,000 people, so more than one per 1,000 people, that's pretty significant. But if you think about 1,000 businesses divide by however many 7 billion people or more that there are out there today, that's not very much at all. We're still at such an early stage, and I'm sort of reminded by this whenever I travel. I'm going to be traveling to San Diego next week, and there's going to be nothing that takes Dash around me. It's just going to be the wasteland. And we're talking about like, oh, you know, we're just so early in this whole stage. And let me tell you, there's going to be nothing that takes Bitcoin either, or Bitcoin Cash, or Litecoin. We're still in those such early days where we haven't even gotten a full integrated system. You know, it's funny. Just today, which would you use Apple Pay? Yeah. Ian got a coffee with Apple Pay, and they had no idea how to work it, and then they had to.
And it was a bit annoying and irritating.
Yeah.
And the thing about Dash is I have never ever had a problem with it. It has always transacted quickly.
Yes.
And I know that's because of the governance, and that's because of a great development team, and that's because of, you know, Darren Tapp and his dips and the whole dip proposal process. No, we've got a killer app here. That's what we have.
But like, merchants aside, just saying, you know, it just works is great. But when we look at places like Venezuela, where central planning has failed, and then Dash can come in, and we've got that grassroots movement there. We don't just have like one team there. There's multiple teams looking funding.
I thought Dash was a centralized corporation and a scam bot.
But the thing is, if Dash is working there, where central banks have failed, and people are opting, not just users, but merchants as well, then the game is won. Because if it's working there, it's going to work in the Western world. Because the Western world, whether we like it or not, is still dependent on dinosaur money, right? We're still in that transitional phase. But if they're choosing to use it and it's working, not just in Venezuela, but Africa as well. So like these places, I know we said before, these could be the new 1%ers of the world. And well, isn't that a picture? So like, I hope that does come to be the case at some point in the future. Yeah. But like,
little known fact, Black Panther is a documentary from 5 to 10 years from now. The Wakandans have all the most advanced and the most wealthy and everything in the world. Think about it.
That's a Dash meme. That needs to happen. I need to make a GIF about that.
Yes.
They're great again.
Although I've still not watched the film. I hear good things.
I haven't either. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Should be coming out any minute now.
Well, you know.
Are you talking about the new Avengers movie? You're talking about Black Panther.
Black Panther. Yeah. Nathan, we're too busy, Nathan. We're working. We don't have time for movies, right? It's evolution time.
Someone's gonna make a movie about this someday, right?
Yeah, hard work.
Yeah, dude.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. This is it. Like, I generally can't understand a lot of the coins in the top 10, I would say top 20, where like we have so many new projects each month. And when you look at some of these other ones, it's just like dust. It's just like there's nothing happening. It's just stagnating.
Really annoying to see Dash underneath Tron, for example, or something like it's so free in market cap or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to say vaporware, but like, do you remember for the longest time where, you know, Litecoin was always silver to Bitcoin's gold, but it was just stagnated. Like there was no development for years. Actually, it was part of the reason why Dash moved from the Litecoin code base over to Bitcoin, right? Yeah, and it was only when Litecoin became the test bed for SegWit, then things started to happen again.
Yeah,
but
and this is not like a bashing party as much as I love those, but it's a little bit of I like to be a hater sometimes, but what the problem is, it's those categorizations, arbitrary categorization metrics, where, and like for example, there's a site called On-Chain FX that's different from CoinMarketCap in that they also have different rankings like total supply mined and also at projected year 2050 market cap and stuff like that. And all these things are just categorizations, and market cap is all people care about, like price per coin and market cap. And that just means, as we've been over before, you can sell a unit of this for this much, and that's multiplied by however many are supposedly in circulation, which has nothing to do with just about any other metric of success. In fact, I would say I'm you know, not trying to talk too much shit here, right? But for example, you take something like EOS that isn't out yet, that's increased a lot of valuation based on is going to exist. But it's like you can't, in my mind, those are not even comparable because one is a token based on a future technology and the other is the technology. And it's kind of weird that they're grouped into the same ranking, or you have a completely centralized system that has issued a bunch of tokens centrally compared to a completely distributed system. And then how do you compare a cryptocurrency with a cryptocurrency powered by a DAO like Dash? There's just so many comparisons, and
payment system as well, like instant send. Like people oversee these things where initially at the root of it, we've got instant send. We're a great payment system. These platforms and stuff built on are great, and I understand why people get excited about these other projects. But you need to be a fully rounded ecosystem. You just have, you know, as Ian said, it just works. God damn it, it works, people.
Yeah, and so when people talk about rankings, they're going to have to. There will, and this is what I predict, right? Because we will see more and more crazy projects trying to jump up in market cap and things like that. And I foresee people will start using different rankings for everything. For example, they'll include transaction volume and they'll include transaction value transmitted. They'll include publicly listed merchants if it's like a currency, for example. They'll include nodes, they'll include node activity, they'll include all kinds of different things, and then they'll average all that out to do a ranking. But even then, the problem is rankings are so easily manipulated, and you can just say, well, but this is not a good you can just add an arbitrary attribute, and then the ranking's different. Then eventually it just has to be like, which stats do you want to look at? So my favorite ranking is discoverdash.com. 1,000 Dash accepting businesses all over the world, all of them verified, all of them manually verified, all of them exist. Is there any? Someone was saying, oh, I looked at the Litecoin Foundation's group of things. They have 80 merchants listed, under 100, right? And I said, yeah, but I looked through those, and at best 30 of them are still active and accepting Litecoin. The rest are just years old. They just left up there. And so that 1,000 merchant ranking, that's what I really take as the ranking that I like to use is, you know, how many places accept it, for example.
It's all about utility, right?
Yeah, but there's so many more. It's like also development teams. I mean, how many full-time contributors are there to Bitcoin? How many are there? What would you think, Nathan? What do you think, Nathan? How many does Bitcoin or Dash have more. I'm talking about just Bitcoin Core, not Bitcoin
Also
Cash or
productive
whatever.
as well. Are they being productive?
Well, that's a little bit harder to quantify. But how about just full-time development?
Where's the accountability?
Compare Dash with Bitcoin. So like, how many full-time core contributors are there for the Bitcoin code base versus the Dash core team? How many? What would you say?
I couldn't even give you numbers, but I would guess that Dash has probably got more because, well, Dash can pay people to do this full time. With Bitcoin, it's got to be volunteer or a company's got to sponsor it.
Yeah. So in that way, when you're trying to say which is the more serious project or whatever, which is the bigger project, everyone just says Bitcoin's king. And then you start looking at that metric and it's like, maybe not. And then you look at Ethereum, which I don't know how many developers Ethereum proper has, but if you look at all the various Ethereum it's probably the population of a small town.
Also, I bet you none of those developers on Bitcoin, for example, get together and have meetings and discuss these things together and do a lot of work together. I mean,
do arm wrestling matches.
Yeah. So, for example, as some of our company is looking at getting everybody involved in Scrum and Agile and working together that way, which I think is a very modern and efficient way to have a group of people working together. And I doubt that the Bitcoin core team or Bitcoin people are as connected as we are.
Well, at least that not to talk.
I mean, they might be. I don't know. But
at least that that's not quite as synergistic though as I would say the Litecoin development team, because it's probably
they have
well, so I'm saying it's probably like a dude talking to himself in the mirror. So
well, we always know the Bitcoin core team use the Reddit Bitcoin subreddit because there's no censorship there at all.
Apparently, that's a funny thing. And so looking at all these different projects and what's come out and what's been developed on and stuff, and every time you hear about a new coin or something, or people always just talk smack about it, just like, oh, this is better, this, does that. And then the problem is, as a journalist, you have to fact check these claims. And I don't, of course,
mail as well.
Yeah. But like, for example, someone was talking about some other coin, and we've already named too many names. I won't name names in this case, but some other coin similar to Dash, and that has some former Dash people involved and is talking about being so much better in some ways. And then someone who I know who's involved with the project just says, yeah, it doesn't work. Like, the wallet keeps breaking, the rewards keep breaking, everything's broken. It's a complete disaster of a code base. It just doesn't, it's broken. It doesn't work right now. They're trying to make it work, but it isn't like Coin X coming soon or Coin X under development. It's just like Coin X, buy it, it works now. No, it doesn't. And
Xcoin sounds like a good name.
Yeah, well, I would say Coin X, but that's different. It's backwards. Xcoin would be a little bit backwards.
What is Xcoin now?
Oh, that's a good question. We'll put that to the live chat.
Yeah. Also that it comes to think about, this was an interesting, and this is something that could last forever in terms of a debate. But like, when people say, what is Bitcoin? And first you say like BTC, whatever, that chain is easily Bitcoin. But then you have Bitcoin Cash people saying, this is more closer to the original Bitcoin. So, and then now they're saying it's Bitcoin. And now Bitcoin.com, for example, is saying Bitcoin Cash is calling that Bitcoin, is calling Bitcoin Legacy. That's what they're calling Bitcoin Core. And it's a little bit confusing. And then people say, we're going to sue you for fraud because we're the real Bitcoin. Well, who's we? What is it? It gets really confusing.
Who gets to decide which is the real Bitcoin?
Yes.
Right?
And so, for example, Dashcoin. We all know that little mother that's just hanging out there at the bottom. But what happens when Dashcoin is completely abandoned, if it hasn't already been? What happens? Can Dash start to call itself Dashcoin as well? Like, what point?
We own the name. We own that.
So what happens? What happens?
We need to hire Roger Ver to do that for us.
Okay, probably. But what happens if you release? Can a new project call itself Xcoin? Dash hasn't been Xcoin in years. What about Darkcoin? Darkcoin's a little bit more of a constant identity. But what happens if someone just says Xcoin, a new privacy coin, blah, blah, blah? Obviously, we're all going to laugh at them. But do we have any right to even say you're trying to steal our like former brand for 2 weeks?
I think it happened. Yeah, I think they already did it. Yeah.
Darkcoin was based on Litecoin.
Yeah, because
Was.
if you think about it from Roger's point of view, though, like if you're talking about Bitcoin, like the real Bitcoin, you just got to think about it from the Genesis block. So providing you're always forking off, you're always going to have that history, right? It's kind of like that new Monero project. I think there's 5 of them now. I don't know if it's Monero Classic or Monero O, but they say they're the real true Monero because where the official Moneros forking off and going down a different path, they're keeping the old code base for mining reasons. So they're the one true Monero and all this sort of stuff. So you have to go from the Genesis like block because it's hard, it's difficult. It's not an easy answer.
Different cryptocurrency projects with the intention of forking them very quickly. I want to create Slim Shady coin because then we can see what's the real Slim Shady. And then I definitely want to have Brian of Nazareth coin because then everyone's going to be Brian of Nazareth.
You're not the Messiah.
And then there's going to be one that says,
"I'm old coins. I'm not."
Yes, of course. So that just sort of goes to the whole like how silly is the whole thing.
So Spartacus coin is going to be
silly, but it's very interesting.
I'm Spartacus.
Yes,
that's right.
Yes, if you have an actual corporation or something like that, it's easy to claim ownership and have that settled by courts and things like that. Well, not easy, but it's possible. But then you have something like Bitcoin that supposedly is, and it's not it doesn't have a consensus mechanism. It doesn't have it doesn't have any of this kind of stuff. It's like, well, what happens if Bitcoin's users, if Bitcoin's miners, Bitcoin's everything just disagrees? Who's right? Well, longest chain with the most accumulated proof of work. Well, isn't that Bitcoin Cash right now? But isn't that the thing that was created with a name that says it's not Bitcoin, but something like Bitcoin, but now is trying to say that it's Bitcoin? And but that's the thing though, is this is not a question I have an answer to. This is a very interesting way of thinking. It just, I don't know which is Bitcoin, right? And that came out of a disagreement on developmental direction. However, with Dash, you could just put it to a vote and just say Dash will do what.
Yeah,
and then
that's why we're keeping the fees low.
Yes, and whichever one that chooses, that will be Dash. And if there's a fork from then, that will be overwhelmingly not Dash. It'll be a different thing. But because you can settle the argument before the split. But because the argument was tried to settle by the split with Bitcoin, now you have this like which is Bitcoin thing. And like what happens if Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Legacy, whatever you want to call it, what happens if it becomes unsuccessful and the vast majority of miners start mining on the other chain and eventually it falls out of use? And for example, say Bitcoin Cash takes off. Are they going to stop calling it Bitcoin Cash? Are they just going to call it Bitcoin now? Are they going to call it Bitcoin in parentheses BCH? Are they going to just take over BTC and pretend the other dead chain never happened? Like how would that work? Like what is Bitcoin? Does anyone know? Raise your hand if you know.
I just see Bitcoin now as just taking a step back because I feel like I've moved on from Bitcoin to Dash and I don't think like they've caught up. So for me, it's just taking a huge step back. For me, it's always about the technology. Blockchain technology is evolving. Like we've had this conversation before. Technology is it's a disruptive technology. And when we look through the history of technology, whether it's mobile phones, anything, Napster, BlackBerry, I think it's a technological graveyard, right? So it comes down to brand name. So as long as the blockchain technology is evolving, that's great because that can be applied in projects, right? So as long as the technology is moving forward, we don't just have one make of car, right? So this is the best way to look forward. So people that get so attached, like Tone Vase, like anything that's not Bitcoin is a scam. It's kind of like, come on, man, get real.
It's funny. There's some, I forget his last name, but his first name is Ragnar. He's some Bitcoin troll on Twitter. He's going to be speaking at Libertopia alongside me. And then Libertopia put out a crypto post saying, oh, we're Bitcoin crazy up in here. And they tagged myself and a whole bunch of different speakers, including Ben Swan. And then this guy got tagged and he started saying, oh, this festival's terrible. They're having all these scam coins in and all this. It's like, dude, are you trying to get uninvited? Like literally they're saying you're speaking here but then you just launch this big maximalist tirade. And it's funny because I keep seeing that. And the Porcupine Freedom Festival, PorcFest, is going to have Dash as a premier sponsor. The main tent is called the Dash Pavilion. It's just everything Dash, hardcore Dash, all the lanyards with Dash. And Tone Vase is coming to speak. And I'm going to enjoy meeting him in person very much because he hates Dash so much. But it's so fun to see because we were never haters to begin with. We were just like, oh, let's try new technology. But it's fun to see these maximalist haters see the world grow up around them. So before you know it, they're going to be Dash branded everything around them.
I get hate mail.
You do?
I get hate mail, man. People send my language hate mail.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you know you're on the right track when that starts to happen. That's the way I look at it. If someone, you know,
but
if me that much because of what
if you like Bitcoin, you should love Dash though, because it's Bitcoin but improved with so much more. Like it really, I hate to use the word evolution, but it is an evolution, but bringing so much more.
Very progressive days to say that.
But Nathan, what do you make of this circus? Like, you just feel like Dash is just way past this. You just don't want to get involved with the tittle tattle of like the tribalism in the crypto sphere, because there's a much bigger game out there. We're trying to get massive adoption. We're trying to escape the small bubble, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm focused on, you know, where we're going, the code, the engineering. I don't even pay attention to the others anymore, to be honest.
That's wise.
Yes, and that's a thing that, unfortunately, because people like myself are in the media, in the public eye, we have to contend with the reality that there's other people with other opinions out there on a daily basis. And the thing is, it's not that, well, Dash is beyond all that. It's that the people in Dash, a lot of them tend to be beyond that because there is no distinction. There's only stuff that excites you. You're like, wow, this is cool stuff. I'm going to build this thing. It's going to get bigger. And it's like, there isn't this contrast. It's the contrast now with a lot of people is competition between coins. Well, this coin's going to do this, this is the best coin. You suck, you're a scam or whatever, all that kind of stuff. But that's only when we unfortunately have to pop our head out of the bubble like a prairie dog and just be like, oh shit. And then the reality is the competition is between Dash and absence thereof. Is everything we're trying to build, these systems we're trying to build, merchant adoption of free and uncensorable cryptocurrency versus that not being there yet. We're kind of clawing our way against the void. The void is the contrast, not other coins. And it kind of seems weird when you have someone who's a maximalist in a coin and he sees other coins as like a threat to fight. It's like, well, aren't you looking at the void? Why aren't you clawing at the void anymore? So, well, that's because you just decided to sit with your arms folded atop your pile of coins and just saying like, this is all that's ever going to be valuable. And you're not working to claw against the void anymore.
There's some laziness to it, yeah. There's definitely some laziness to not wanting to. I mean, there's a lot to explore. There's a lot of technology, and some people like to chase the price and invest in these little coins. But yeah, I think the maximalists, the Bitcoin maximalists, there's some laziness to it. They don't want to try to explore and have to learn a bunch of. It takes a lot of time. It's a full-time job, but yeah, I think that's part of it.
Yeah, the technology drives the products, but the product is dependent on the technology. So that's always the case, whether you're an Apple fanboy or whatever, it's the technology, right? So yeah. Anyway, chaps, is it about that time?
Time to wrap up.
Yes, Ian's getting hungry.
Well, thank you, Nathan, for joining us. It's been a pleasure. I hope you come back again.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Excellent. And Ian, always a pleasure as well.
Great to see you again, Mark.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to keep Joel posted on the Dash Drive. Like any updates, always happy to hear. Yeah. So Joel, do you want, as I opened up, do you want to close off?
Well, I don't know what that means. The implications of that, but anyway, yes. So if you enjoyed this, please give Ian a pile of money and Nathan as well. Oh wait, sorry, you already paid. I forgot that. Never
No,
mind. This is
no,
not
no. Do that thing. We need like a QR code up here or something.
What about your Evolution username? Can I get it branded on that
right
forehead right there?
Yeah.
Anyway,
It just automatically puts on the QR code.
Yeah. So if you
in a hologram,
if you enjoy what happens, if
send money here.
If you enjoyed what Dash does, be involved. If you enjoy what these two fellows do, and you have a masternode, vote for stuff that funds them. If you like this podcast, please subscribe. We're here. We're on all kinds of audio-only channels like iTunes and Stitcher and things like that. Those will be provided in the description below. Go subscribe to those. We're also on DTube and Steam it at Dash Force News. And that, when you actually upvote us, it gives us money or whatever they're calling Steam these days. So go get on that train too. As usual, we do an after party, which is a limit of 10 people and a much more casual version of this on the Discord channel, the Dash Nation Discord. So that's dashchat.org. Get in there, start poking around saying, hey, where's the after party at? Where's the after party at? And someone will plug you in, provided that there's space. I'll probably not be in on this one very much, so you can probably just boot me out. But everyone else, anyone wants to come in, there's been a lot of interesting discussions, a lot of proposals have gotten created or polished or whatever. There's been just a lot of work happening in that, because sometimes the after party lasts like 6 hours sometimes, with different people popping in and out, and then finally, like, you know, Mark's done with his frozen pizza and it's like 3, 4, or 5 in the morning. He has to go away. But yeah, there's people that come in and out all over the place. That's one thing that I think Dash really needs, is more cohesion with the community. It's got a great community of people, but they got to talk to each other. Us, let me count, 5. Us 5 here get together. That's one thing. But then the after party, and then in person, go meet up with people you know, especially other people. If you're a Mastodon owner, meet up with other physical Mastodon owners
with beer.
Yes, that helps. That helps the conversation flow. And yeah, keep it going. And we're building something amazing that will advance humankind to the next level and will improve lives immeasurably for so many people. So don't take it lightly. Get involved. Get excited.
Excellent. And that was it for episode 49 of the Dash Force 3 Amigos podcast. We'll be back, same Dash time, same Dash channel next week. Have a fantastic weekend, and we'll see you next Friday. Bye for now.
Bye for now.